What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Notorious HFL podcast. I'm your host, the Notorious HFL. On this podcast, huge fat loser on Instagram and all social media platforms, and Aaron Lohman in real life. Before I get into my amazing guest this week, I just want to thank one of my sponsors. Well, the sponsorship's up. I just like shouting him out. He's one of my good friends, does great work. Frank Vos over at Reps for Responders, repsforresponders.org. They do a lot of great charity work for first responders, EMS, military, dispatchers, corrections, you name it. Mental health services, scholarships for gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms. And please contact them. They have a lot of great events. They have one coming up on the 26th, actually. If you're listening to this before then, it's the Echelon Front, which is Jocko Willing's company over in Jersey, over in Bergen County Convention Center, I believe. Somewhere in Bergen County. I don't know. All Jersey's the same to me. Sorry, Jersey people. But it's a good event, and they provide great leadership skills. And for those of you who take part in that or listen to, Jocko or anybody, it's a good thing to do. And just follow up. Well, there's also on May 11th, there's Fit for Duty, which is back at a different location at the Sale House up in, I think it's Rockland County, which is going to be an outdoor workout and a brunch. You could either do one or both, or you don't have to participate. You just come and hang out and watch. And that's it. repsforresponders.org or at reps_for_responders on social media. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest, the infamous, she goes by the Crumb Picker on social media, but her real name is Leanna Cherry. Thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It is really a privilege to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you. For those of you who don't know, I'm just going to get out. I don't even know how it started, but somebody told me about you, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't really like crumb cake, but I love crumb cake now. I don't know. I don't know what I was eating before I had your crumb cake, but apparently it was not crumb cake. But I always love supporting small businesses, local businesses, and I don't remember who exactly it was who told me about you. You had been following me for a long time, and I was like, oh, wow, this is very interesting. And, we've developed a relationship over the last couple of years on social media and through small business. The first question I really want to ask you is, how did this start for you? How did, selling crumb cakes start as a business for you?
Well, it's a little bit of a story. It started back, as far back as I can remember, 5th grade, being home after school by myself, making crumb cake. The first thing that I would bake as a kid was on the side of the Bisquick box. There was a coffee cake recipe, and that's what I would make. I've always loved baking. But fast forward to being an adult, being a mom, I started baking in probably more frequently in 2019 as really a form of stress relief. I was going through some changes at work. We were going through transitional things with a merger, and I turned to baking just naturally as my form of stress relief. I'd get home from the office, make a crumb cake, bring it into work the next day. And it was kind of the thing that I became known for over the years at my job. And anytime there was a celebration, it was like, you're going to make the crumb cake, right? You can bring the crumb cake. So, I had brought it into work, and my boss at the time was retiring. And so I made a big one to bring in and have everybody enjoy. And at that time, my sister had created a sticker for me. I had started a social media page called the Crumb Picker just because I had started to sell to family, but also like friends of family. And my sister created this sticker, and I put it on the box, and I brought it into my job. And my boss sneaks into my office, and he's like, wait a second, are you doing this? Like, is this what you're going to do? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, leave and make crumb cake? What are you talking about? No, I just started to branch out. It was something that I just loved and wanted to do. And people, I had a colleague that wanted one for Easter, and she's like, Leanna, she's forcing money in my hand. She's like, please take my money. People need to know about this. You need to do this. And so it really just, that year, as I was going through a lot of transition in my corporate job, was like, you know what? I really love this. I really enjoy this. So that's kind of how it started. I mean, I had been making it for, 20 something years before that. It's a family recipe from my husband's side of the family. But over time, kind of tried to adapt it and change it a little bit, make it more my own. And that's something that I've perfected, obviously, as the business has grown. But
no, that's awesome. So when you turned to baking as a form of stress relief, did you find that it worked for you? Like, it definitely...
Absolutely. It was the thing that I feel like when you're tired and, you get home from a late day at work, and just to be revived doing something, and maybe for others it's working out or whatever form of stress relief. And for me, it was that. And then it just slowly branched out into like colleagues, like, hey, you're making these cakes. I want to buy one. It's Christmas. Can you, and I recently just came across a photo of literally a list that I took a picture of, that it was like just people from my job that wanted to pay me to make these cakes. And then it just started branching out.
Not only that, like, obviously, like, baking is like any other type of art form. Like, you get good at it, and like having people, you make something and it starts out obviously as a stress relief for yourself, but having other people enjoy that thing and share that enjoyment with you feels awesome.
It feels awesome. And I know, food, that's the upside and the downside. Listen, we can turn to food for comfort, but it also provides that feeling of like joy and love. And for me, it's family. I mean, I grew up, my grandmother and grandfather lived in Queens, and every weekend they would come out, they would stop at Oxford Bakery, they'd get a crumb cake, they'd come out, we'd hang out as a family. That was the thing that in my family brought us all together. And so to have something that now has come from my husband's side of the family, a recipe, reminds me of my childhood. And then now I can put these things together and give somebody an experience that just, it brings me joy, and it brings the customer joy, because I think they can really feel that love.
Not only that, it's something that they can share with their family. Like, I know, like, every time we get a crumb cake from you, like, obviously we all eat it together, and it's something we talk about.
Yeah.
It's just, when it's sharing it with your own family, it's crazy how that transition makes it. Where'd the name the Crumb Picker come from?
So my husband and I have been together since we started dating when we were 17 years old. And from as long as I can remember, every time we'd go out to eat, finish dinner, whatever, he'd get dessert. I wouldn't. Typical female, like, can I just like take a little slice? And he'd be like, you're such a crumb picker. Stop. Just order your own, get your own. And so like, that was kind of just his nickname for me. And so when I started the page and I was like, I'm making crumb cake, he calls me a crumb picker, it just works.
That's so funny. That's great. That's great. I would have had that. I mean, that's an awesome story, because I would have never guessed that in a million years. If that was.
I mean, it's funny because you think like, oh God, I don't want people to think that that's what I'm doing to the fry, But it really, I think as a female, and I think a lot of women could probably relate to this, we're always trying to be conscientious, and that was just the running joke. Like, you're such like Leanna, it could be French fries, it could be dessert, it could be whatever. Just get your own. So.
Now, you developed this as obviously like a stress management strategy at the beginning. Now people are coming to you at work wanting to make these crumb cakes. And you slowly realize that, hey, listen, this could be a business. How do you decide to actually make that transition and branch out into entrepreneurship? So
it's very interesting, because one would think that was the natural progression of my path, and it really was not. I got to a point of desperation. I was so desperate for a change. And, I think ever since going back to when I became a mom, working in the corporate world and being a mom, I felt like my heart was being pulled in two different directions. I wanted to be around for my kids, but I worked this really great job that was providing for my family and provided stability and great benefits and a pension and all these things. So like, the rational part of me said, you have to stay with this. The mom in me said, I would do anything to be around for my kids. I felt like they were not getting the best of me. By the time I would get home from the office, I was drained from the day. I had a job where I was working in public relations. So while it, theoretically could be done in a work day, it really is a 24/7 job, especially when you're working in an industry that's a 24/7 operation like a hospital. So that pull that I was feeling really got heavier after I had my second child. And I had approached my boss at the time saying, like, listen, I need some more balance. Like, I can't be working 5 days. I had 2 children under 2. I was stressed. So he was gracious enough to let me work a day from home. I did that for a season. I transitioned ultimately to a part-time role. I actually stepped away from a very big role to take a lesser role because I felt like I need to work 3 days a week, and the other 2 days I need to be with my kids, because it was just that challenging to me to juggle both. But fast forward to 2020, I really got to a point of I need to change. And I think sometimes in life, whether it's a job, whether it's a health journey, whether it's a financial rut that you're in and you're like, I'm desperate for change. And I said to my husband, it was like, I need to take a leap of faith, and God will work it out somehow. I don't know how. And I need to get out of here. And he was like, you know what? I support you. He had seen the effects of it on me, on the kids, on just my physical health. I mean, I was in the hospital with kidney stones. They're like, yeah, that's from stress. Like, you know, so he supported me 100%. And, so again, back to your original question, was one would think I was like, okay, I'm going to leave and I'm going to start this business. I was just like, I need to leave. And at the time I was applying to other jobs, so I was really confident I was going to find like something just like a 9-to-5 that I could just go work, come home. I never was thinking about the baking as becoming a business. And then so I put in my notice. 1 week later, you know, now COVID's starting, you're hearing about it in the news, it's happening in other parts of the world. And now I put in my notice, it's February 27th, 2020. 1 week later, we get the first patient on Long Island with COVID. And everyone in my job is like, well, where are you going? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm leaving. That's what I know. I gave my notice, I'm leaving. But so now COVID comes into the picture, and I'm like, okay. And as this is worsening, I'm like, now in my mind, I'm like, where am I going to find a job? Like, the whole world is shutting down. This is it was scary. But it was my husband in the midst of all that, like, Leanna, you love to bake. Why don't you see if you can do this? Like, we're home, we're all like locked inside. Like, and his whole point was, make sure this is like a legitimate thing. Can people bake from a home kitchen and sell? Like, do the research, talk to people. And that's exactly what I did. I ended my job and I really just started on this journey to like, what do I need to do to make this happen? Because he was right. It was like, this is something I could do to earn some income, be around for the kids. And so that started me on the path of formulating, becoming a business, getting insured, getting licensed. And like by June of that year, it was incredible to see the power of social media, the power of people wanting to support small business, just coming out. I mean, it definitely, I went from a season of feeling so lost and so desperate for change to within months feeling like this is like the biggest blessing. Leaving I didn't realize it was just the start of this whole new chapter.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
When you first, did you start like a social media first before you branched out and like started trying to sell? Like, what was, when you decided, you know what, this is something I really want to do, I really want to see if this is a viable option to do this, the visual cut out. All right. No, because never mind. There was the one time it cut out and it never came back. So I just want to make sure. All right. Yeah. So I have like a PTSD flashback from that. But so when you make that transition and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to like actually see if this is a viable option. What was your marketing strategy and how did you figure it out? You know what I mean? Because even me having a small business and putting myself out there, like literally it's just throwing shit at a wall. And like, I don't know. I still have no idea what I'm doing. I think that people have this assumption that I have a clue, and I don't. So I would like to hear yours and hopefully steal some of your tips.
I can definitely relate to that. And I think what began to happen was, so as those inquiries were coming in just from people I knew, I did create the page. So I went back, it's August 2019. So before I was still working in the corporate world. I wasn't officially the Crumb Picker, but I knew that would be the name, right? So, but once I left, that's, my background's marketing PR. If I know that, it's get the word out, however you got to get it out. And it's been really interesting to see such a change in the last 4 years of how news or how you do get the word out. It's all through social media. So, I mean, honestly, I'm learning every day. I love to, see what you put out. I know it's like almost you shoot from the hip sometimes. And like you said, like you feel something or you take a picture and in that moment, you're like, I'm just going to put this out there. Yeah. The other day when I was making a funfetti crumb cake, I had to make a mini traditional crumb cake. I opened the cabinet. I got the vanilla, I see the sprinkles, and I was like, you know what? I have extra batter. Let me throw some funfetti sprinkles. I'll video this. Everything is content. That's like the one thing always in the back of my mind. Everything. Yeah. Film everything. Especially when it comes to baking, right? Yeah. So I threw the sprinkles in. I'm videoing. Like, I'm by myself at home. I'm putting a birthday candle in this, and I'm filming this thing. And like that reel got more likes than some of my other recent posts. So sometimes it's not the things that we think are going to get the traction. Never is. It's sometimes the things that,
I mean, that's always my advice always is like, just post whatever. Who cares about stuff? Like some things are going to hit. I
appreciate that because there's just times where I feel as a business owner who has, a relatively small menu of items. Like I don't claim to be a pastry chef or an expert or anything. There's times where I'm like, it's the same thing over and over and over. Like, how many times can you see a stack of cookies or me, but it's crazy because not everyone is seeing everything. No, not everyone is following along at the same time. Some people have no idea that I literally, left the job. And that, again, I didn't leave to start the business. This evolved in a period of time where we were in lockdown and it was, I mean, I can't help but, I think about my husband and how he could have so easily in those moments when I said I wanted to leave, he could have easily been like, yeah, no, Leanna, like we can't. It's not like I wasn't, and I don't recommend that people do this, but I was that desperate for a change. But like he could have said to me like, we gotta put, X amount of dollars away and then you can, it was a total leap of faith. And again, for me personally, I'm a person of faith. It was like a total God moment because I'm like, God, I don't know how this is going to work out. I just know that I know you well enough that you're not going to leave me stranded. So, and it's been the greatest gift.
It speaks to the importance of having like a good partner in your life and choosing the right person because my wife is very much the same way where like she literally pushed me to do any of this. Like this is, people do not believe this about me is I am I'm an introvert or I'm a forced extrovert. Like I have to like force myself to be like, take that deep breath and just put myself out there, especially when it comes to social media content or anything is like, people are like, oh, you make it look so effortless. And I'm like, no, even from public speaking, I get so nervous even now. I do it so much. Like people pay me to do it. I get so nervous beforehand. People don't realize. And it's my nerves that like drive me forward and push me forward. And I have to force myself. And my wife is the one who's always pushing me to do more stuff. People don't realize when I publicly speak, I've never prepared a single speech in my entire life. I just straight off of what I want to say because my emotion drives me. Like I know what I want to say, what will resonate with people. And like, I think writing it down for me anyway will stall me. Like same thing when it comes to content. When I create content, I don't script. Nothing's ever been scripted. I might have an idea, but literally it's just me talking into my phone about something that I want to say. And some of the stuff, like sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people see it, sometimes they don't. You just got to keep on putting yourself out there because, and I said this on the last podcast too, when Sarah was on, the audience doesn't know what they want. And that's a Rick Rubin quote, You know who Rick Rubin is, right? Okay, yeah. She didn't because she's very young. And that quote is like, the audience has no idea what they want. Eventually, you're just going to create something that they're going to want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also, in terms of the products, like I've, been very limited. When I started, my husband was like, Leanna, stick to what you know. Like, don't try to be, because I mean, if you look at my original, what I went for my licensing, when I filled out the paperwork, I put like lemon bars, brownie, like all the things like I love to make, oatmeal, raspberry, all these like, homemade treats.
Well, lemon bars are my favorite. I just
want
to
no. I'm not trying to sabotage you with sweets, I promise. But it's funny because I'm like, stick with the straight and narrow, but people like variety. And so I've just, even this carrot crumb cake that I recently came up with, people were going nuts for it. And it's like, I love it, but like, I didn't realize there's a whole world of people out there that like that stuff.
And it's cool because it's not something you see all the time, especially since like your specialty is obviously crumb cake, but like having, and people like to be surprised with some new thing, even if it's not necessarily new, right? Like my wife, she loves funfetti. So like when you made that, and it's obviously nostalgic for like childhood. Yes. So when you made that, she's like, we have to get this immediately. I'm like, okay, all right, fine, we'll get it. Jeez, like, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And the same thing with the cat. I see people going crazy for the cat. I read all your posts and like, well, like this, like people, responding to you and stuff. And like, people like carrot cake, and carrot cake's one of those things that people are very passionate about. Like they love it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh shit, carrot cake and crumb cake together. This is amazing.
It's
like
a
the best of both worlds.
worlds.
And so it gets people excited about, like crumb cake. People hear crumb cake, like in my head, right? I never really liked crumb cake growing up, so I really didn't like crumb cake until I had yours. Like, because nostalgically, like I think of like, oh, here's this Entenmann's crumb cake at my grandmother's house that would always sit there with the knife in the box like forever, and then to me it was just not something I was ever excited about. Now here you take this idea, something that's like literally always existed for me since my grandparents, and almost made it something new and interesting and cool, and then added like certain things. Oh, now you have funfetti, now you have the carrot cake, and whatever, the pumpkins, pumpkin, all right, also legit, come full, like amazing. And you add those things into it, and it gets people like reinvigorated and re-excited about the same. You're essentially making the same thing but different. And it gets people excited. It's so awesome.
And it's exciting for me because if I was only doing two products, I mean, hands down, no matter how much stuff I come up with, the chocolate chip cookies and the traditional crumb cake through and through are my most popular items. But having variety, but I also don't want to get to a place where I'm offering, because keeping ingredients, even with the carrot cake, for example, like having fresh carrots and I totally overbought carrots from Restaurant Depot for Easter. I thought I needed I was calculating by the bag, like, okay, I need 3 cups per cake, all right, like I need this many pounds, and it was like at the end of the day when throwing out all these carrots,
it's good as long as you like, especially if you keep it limited. People are like, damn, next year I have to get this one, and then the next year comes along, and then they're like, yo, they gotta get it. And then this is what's hard for me with business is like, obviously I do a bunch of things, but like especially when it comes to like shirts, is like I can't do that with shirts. Like it's I mean I could, but the way I don't keep merchandise, so like if I come up with a design, I have to keep it out there. And it's just, so I don't have anything for people to really get excited about. It's not the listen, people always think, they're like, oh dude, you're killing it. It's like, dude, no, I'm not killing it. All right, so if you're out there listening and you haven't bought a t-shirt or a book, please help me out. I would appreciate that.
Well, it's similar to the business. People often think when they see me at the holidays, and obviously I cut things off because I don't want to bake more than, like, when you pick up a product, I want to know that I either just made it like that day or the day before. Like, I don't want to be baking for a week and then have you pick up a cake that's been sitting in my house for 5 days. So like I know my limitations at the holidays, but people often think, they're like, oh, I didn't reach out to you, I thought you. It's like, you know what? There's plenty of there's natural ebb and flow to the business, and I now doing it in its 4th year, I know that there's times where it's going to be slow, and I'm like, okay, anybody want to grow? Okay, January, I know we're all on a diet, but there are challenges, and coming up with an entrepreneurial workshop for Girl Scouts, that's been one way that I've been kind of able to fill in some of the free time that I do have in some of those seasons where it's not so busy, and try to get creative and think of like, okay, if people aren't reaching out, but then in the same regard, if they're not reaching out, it's not necessarily because they don't want something, it's they might think I can't handle the business. So it's this fine line of balancing, like, busyness and also, my kids are my heart. They're my why. They drive. They're the reason this business exists. So that balance of being around for them, taking them to the game, picking them up from the practice, like I still want that life that I think really got me here in the first place. So
now, when you mentioned the Girl Scout entrepreneurship workshops, tell me a little bit about that.
So that just evolved. My daughter's troop. They were coming across a badge that they were going to earn, and the leader reached out to me and she's like, is there any way that you would want to like maybe present to the girls about entrepreneurship? That's pretty much what she gave me. And I was like, sure, so I did a little like research about what the badge was supposed to cover. And I was thinking about like, okay, now here's my audience. There's, 5th or 6th grade girls. Like, what do they want to know, So I really just talked to them about what it means to be an entrepreneur, how I got here, a little abbreviated version of my story. We do a hands-on, fun, like baking activity because who doesn't love, like what 5th grader or 6th grader doesn't love to like make something, So if they have an oven, we do monkey bread, which is like my kids' favorite thing. If they don't have an oven, then we decorate cupcakes. It's just an easy way to get them thinking about, okay, if this was our business, girls, what would we need to make this thing come to life? So we talk about the cupcakes. We talk about how do we get to make that final product? We need the flour. We need, the sugar, all the things that go into it, the stove, I just get them thinking beyond like, okay, you see this physical cupcake. Well, like what went into that? And so they're doing that. They realize what goes into a business, and then we kind of break out and they get a chance to think about if they could have a business, doesn't have to be baking, what would they want to do? And they take a couple minutes and we fill out like a small business plan together, and then they share. And it's just really, it's great for the girls because it gives them that confidence that maybe there's something that they're into. And I tell them like in 5th grade, guys, like now I wouldn't have my son who's in 5th grade. I wouldn't want him coming home and turning the oven on. But I was literally, I was a latchkey kid. My parents were at work, and I would come home from school and I would bake.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
So there's something that they could be into at this age that maybe it doesn't become their career, but maybe it becomes a side thing. Maybe it becomes just something that they decide they want to do with their free time. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So that's been a way that just, I feel like when there is that downtime, it's something that I can offer.
No, that's a great thing to offer. And, that's why, we talk about kids finding things that they're interested in, is that's something that's super important to me, especially with my kids, is that I try not to force them to do things. I literally let them, hey, you want to do this? All right, cool. Let's try it out. And one of the things that my daughter does now is she goes to this, it's like a cooking school where it's run by, I want to say Cortland or Cornell. Yeah, Cornell.
Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Yeah, that's what it is. And she learns to, let me tell you something, okay? She can cook. She's 10. She can cook. Like, she knows how to caramelize onions and it's legit. And I think it's a good life skill to have. And she genuinely enjoys it, especially the other day, usually she'll bring a lot of times it's not stuff that she'll eat that she'll like, so she'll bring it home to me and I love it. She makes good food. But the last time she's like, oh, I didn't bring the food home. I ate it. It was like steak. And I'm like, oh, look at you.
That's amazing.
And as a kid, she was such a picky eater. I mean, so picky. If you're listening to this, I know people are like, oh, I always see these memes on social media. You have these people who are like, oh, my kid's such a picky eater. All they eat, and it's a list of 400 things. Shut up. Well, they have that bento box, lunch box where they're sending their kid to school with sushi. It's what kid is that? No kid is eating that. But no, for real, we tried to get her to eat a waffle, and this was in a Waffle House in Florida, and she threw up. She would intentionally get sick to not eat. And it was very tough, So to see her actually cooking and making food and doing all the stuff that she enjoys, and the same thing, that's literally what I want. I grew up as a creative type. And being a cop was not my first choice. I wanted to be a movie director. I wanted to get into films. I wanted to do all this stuff. And art, I was an artist, at heart. I still really am. So I try to do that for my kids because I gave up on that because of what I went through in my childhood. I don't want that same experience for them. I want them to do what they want and be happy. And hopefully one day do, like I said, just do whatever they want, But to backtrack a little bit, you talked about the crumb cakes. Now, how did the cookies come about from the crumb cake? Like, how did you decide, hey, listen, I'm doing crumb cakes now. I also want to do chocolate chip cookies?
Because that's just what I was like known for. That's what I was known for in the office.
Because they are my favorite things on earth.
And
like, my kids too.
Listen, I have to say, I am beyond proud of those cookies because they are truly mine. Like those I have created. They're not a family. That is years and years of tweaking and perfecting. My husband's probably eaten 30,000 chocolate chip cookies by now. And really with his feedback, you know, just perfecting them, like, you know, just getting them to that perfect place. And when I started the business, I was like, all right, I really need to, you know, before the business, I was using measuring cups and just kind of willy-nilly, you know, like throwing stuff in.
Yeah.
I was a baker, but not precision, you know, like to a T. So when I really formalized the business, my husband's like, you really got to start converting your recipes to digital, you know, use a digital scale and make everything in grams so you know. So the summer that I was started the business, Dave Portnoy was out in Montauk. That was his first summer here on Long Island. And my husband always was watching his videos for pizza reviews. And I really didn't follow. I followed him, but I really didn't. I just knew of him for pizza. And these two gentlemen from Long Island had drove out to Montauk and I guess like found out where he was, brought him a watermelon from their backyard that they had grown. And it was this whole video. It was hilarious. Watched the video.
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
So what's funny is like you sent me the video where he talked about your cookies, but like I had watched his previous, I seen a couple of the cookie reviews that he did at like a couple of, because he goes to like a couple of those small stores out in the Hamptons. But I had never seen that one, and I was like so blown away. I'm like, how the hell could I have not seen this video?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's funny though. So I'm watching this video of these guys with watermelon, and I literally, no one was home. I had just taken pictures, I think, of the cookies, and I messaged him directly. And I said, watermelon is great, but while you're here on Long Island, why don't you try the world's best crumb cake? I thought, yeah, and chocolate chip cookies. And so I say that, I attached 2 pictures. That's it. Like within a couple hours, he responds, I want those cookies. And I was like, I said to my husband, I think I'm talking to Dave Portnoy. I'm pretty sure. And he's like, when can I get them? Well, you know, and Frankie at the time was going to be driving out to do something with him. And it was right in a hurricane. We were expecting a hurricane the next day. So I'm like, I'm going to lose power. I'm going to be trying to make his cookies. I'm going to lose power. This is just, and it all worked out. I met Frankie. I brought the cookies. I actually gave him a crumb cake too. And I gave Frankie his own bag of stuff. And we were heading up to Vermont for a few days, and I let some time pass, and then I texted Frankie. I'm like, I just said, like, I hope you guys enjoyed the cookies. Thanks again for the opportunity. He's like, he loved them. So I'm like, uh-oh. Like, uh-oh. He's going to do I'm thinking if he does a review, and then I'm worried, okay, am I prepared for really the influx of inquiries that are going to come? That does
happen. I've seen it happen with some people. I'll give you the story a little bit.
Aaron, I mean, I think my husband and Kevin took a video of me the moment that his review went live. My phone, the ding 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 ding, like the messages that came in, and I was set up like I had an automatic reply for people because I knew, with my certification, I can't technically ship out of state. Working from a home kitchen. So off the bat, in hindsight, had I thought about it more, was it wise or not? I mean, I think it was a great thing to have him try them, and he gave them a great score. But like the ramifications of that, I think early on in my business career, I was kind of like, wow, the impact of this is far greater than I think I could have ever imagined. But the point of me telling you this is, as I'm getting ready for the review to hit, I was like, okay, I gotta make sure I get this cookie recipe. And my husband calls it the yips. He's like, you have the yips right now. I couldn't remember how to make the cookies. I think I was so overwhelmed and nervous about this potential influx of inquiries that I was like, okay, I gotta sit here and just perfect this. And it was like, I think I made 7 batches of cookies. And I'm like, they're not coming out the same. What is wrong with me? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And it was like, finally, I literally walked away, the kids were outside. My husband was outside. I was like, I just need to take a breath. And it was like a light bulb went off. I kept forgetting to put the eggs in. Like it was like one step that I kept like missing. But I literally just took the time to write everything out and make sure that like when you order, I want your cookie to be the same, today and, 2 years from now. So taking the time to really.
No, yeah, that's awesome. That's an amazing story. Like, so he did a review once of a pizza place. It's actually up in Troy, New York.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It was a review of the pizza place, and there was some type of like, I can't remember what the name. It was some type of dessert cake. Like the place, if you've ever been to Troy, New York before, outside of Albany, there's nothing in that town really. Sure. It's like, so we happened to be driving through there, and I was like, oh, you know what? He just did a pizza review there. And like I walked in, and they were like, no, we're not taking any orders, right? Like you could tell they were definitely overwhelmed and severely underprepared.
Yeah.
Which is good. Listen, I hope to one day have their pizza, but like you could tell that they were just like overwhelmed, which is good. Like honestly, like what he does, I think what he does for a lot of small businesses is amazing. Obviously, what he has been doing recently for Detective Diller and also the police officer from Syracuse who was murdered. It's amazing. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does.
Absolutely.
And small businesses, listen, a lot of these small businesses are just being taken over and like ran out by large corporations, and like it really just loses that feel, and that's a lot of it is to blame is us, like for convenience, where we go to these big box retailers, we shop on Amazon, we're all guilty of it to a certain extent, but we should all be trying to support these small businesses, because like that's who supports our community. That's where like community comes from, is these small businesses, and it always has. And he's really put his hand into that. And
absolutely.
Really
and I credit him. He really put his review that summer, put me on the map for Long Island for sure. I mean, and just to see scores of people driving. I mean, I have this one customer that saw that review lives in Jersey and drives to Long Island for cookies because of his review. So
no, it's awesome. So when you talked about teaching the Girl Scouts this entrepreneurship thing, now me and my wife talked about this because we ourselves are trying to start a different type of business. Obviously, I do the shirts and I write books and I do all this stuff. We're trying to do something food related, top secret, but and I'm going to tell you right now, navigating the business laws in New York is like navigating the tax law, where they just don't tell you how much you owe. They don't tell you what you need to do, what's supposed to be on this, what's supposed to be on that. Have you ever thought of making a course almost for people to get, I mean, I'm not saying free at all. I'm saying like you should charge money to create a course. And here's the step-by-step process in how to start some type of food business in New York, because like I think that honestly you would crush it at that because nobody knows how to do it, including myself. I have no clue what I'm doing at this point.
Well, it's funny. I definitely have invested some time speaking with two other people in the baking industry who were getting started, and through a friend were like, hey, listen, do you think you can talk to my friend? She's trying to navigate it. And I have always said to people, like, listen, I did the work. So like I can help you, almost give you like the, what is it called? The Cliff's Notes version. Listen, it can be a little bit vague, and
it's crazy. It's nuts.
It's hard to navigate. And it's also, I'm such a rule follower. I mean,
so
my
that's what I'm saying.
My CPA is like, Leanna, and I'm like, listen, I wanted, when I started, one of the first things I did was I talked to a lawyer, like my friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just to be like, okay, is this legitimate? Can I do this? Like, and what if someone falls while they're picking up a crumb cake on my front? I mean, these are the things that go through your mind when you're starting something. So, I appreciate that vote of confidence. I definitely feel like I have become very well versed in the process. At least for home processors.
I mean, you're the person I go to. I went to first to ask about anything, because
well, and like I told you, I think the insurance is so key, because now. It was one thing when I was selling to my friends and my family and just people like friends of friends. But like when you start to branch out, now there's people that you don't know. And there's, at least from my standpoint, food allergy concerns. And I always tell people there's no nuts in what I make, carrot cake, yes, but I'm not a nut-free kitchen. And to some that could pose
of course, 100%.
So, You have to be careful. But yeah, it's I'm happy to, I like I said, I've talked to people however I can share my knowledge and help someone else. I'm happy to do that.
No, I'm saying I think that if in your downtime, whatever your slow season is, if you made a course that was like I have a course about fitness and nutrition. If you made one about starting a business and what you need to do, I think that it would be very successful, because it's easy to get lost in this entrepreneurship thing. And like, while there is no recipe to like becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business, and like the key is like literally to just start and just build on that.
That's it. That's it.
When it comes to food, especially, is like, it's really fucking annoying. I have to tell you that. It's like, oh, well, you have to find a commercial kitchen if you're going to ship out of state, right? So I do want to ship out of state. So my thing is like, okay, you have to find a commercial kitchen, which I found one. They're willing to let me use it. But then like insurance, and then like what's supposed to go on the label, what's not supposed to go. Like, it's just all a headache of like, we're obviously figuring it out as we go before we, launch anything. But like, it's tough. It's really tough to navigate the industry of food making, especially in this state. I don't know what it's like in any other state.
Well, that's the thing. It varies. State to state, it varies. So, I mean, I think thankfully in New York, it's, there's a whole list of foods that you are thankfully able to make from home kitchens.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Obviously cookies and crumb cakes.
Cookies and crumb cakes are on there.
Being one of them. Yeah. So when you talked to, you did, what did you do before? You did marketing for a hospital. Okay. Yeah. How was that?
Like I said, I mean, listen, I was with the hospital for 13 plus years. I mean, it was, when I started, like a family. It was a family culture. I absolutely loved my initial role was to tell patient stories and basically interview people who had a positive experience. It could be on any kind of condition. I got to interview incredible people. I was remembering this morning a guy who went through our pulmonary program, and he was able to do the Tunnel to Towers race as a result, and just interviewing him and talking to him about the care he received and how he was before he started the program and what he could do. So it was a wonderful job for so many reasons. And then that role really grew as I was there, because it was, the department grew, and the need for more publicity grew, because we were trying to establish ourselves as a leading healthcare institution on Long Island. So it was great potential and a great path for me. And I think the intersection of motherhood and this corporate life that I honestly didn't anticipate, feeling such a burden to be around for my kids. And I feel like this world, and I'm not that old, but it's changed a lot.
Oh, big time.
And, my husband's a teacher, so he has a great schedule, but like just having a presence in the house, we felt, I think together, just like that was important to us. And it's hard when you let a job dictate what your priorities are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very liberating to be like, you know what? No, like this is what I want for my family. And it might not be what everybody else wants, but for us, like, I just remember saying to my husband at one point when there was some transition happening in the department, I said, I could go in there tomorrow and probably get whatever I want. I could probably name whatever salary I want. And it was never about money for us. It was like, I want to be around for my kids. I want balance. I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to wait till I'm retired to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy my life now. I want to work hard. I want to provide for my family, but I also don't want to get to a place where my job is the 90% and my family's the 10. Like that was, and again, listen, I think just the nature of being in healthcare, it being a 24/7 job, situations would come up, at all kinds of hours and on the weekends, and being a young mom, it was definitely challenging to handle that. So I think it's a great field, but you have to be at a certain place in your life to really go after it and thrive in it. And if you want to, have that balance of, family and personal life, it's definitely challenging in an industry like that.
How'd you wind up getting into something like that, to be honest with you?
So
it's just such a far offshoot from obviously like what you do now. So
it's funny you say that, but there are so many overlaps. I think that all the time. Like at face value, baking and public relations seems so opposite. But when I am working, when I'm baking, I'm like, there are just so many. I'm taking pictures. I'm taking video. I did all that stuff at the hospital. I'm promoting my product. I'm telling my story. I'm not telling the patient's story. There's so much that overlaps. It's crazy. But I studied communications in college. I really, like most 17-year-olds, had no idea what I wanted to do. Right. My sister was a PR major or communications major. She was doing well in life. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go after communications. I had some great internship experiences in college. I interned for Conan O'Brien late night.
How was that?
Oh my gosh. It was recently that we just watched, he was on Hot Ones. There's an episode where they eat the wings,
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one.
Oh, you have to watch. But like, it was reminding me, like, he's one of those guys, like you, what you see, there's not like a Conan on the television and then a Conan in he is through and through how you see him. And it was definitely a very cool experience. My job for that was to research the guests who were coming on
that's great.
the show. So it's like, okay, Aaron Lohman's coming on. Go on. And at this point, this is 1999, 2000. Like, I mean, the computers are out, but like, it's not like today. So I'm like on IMDb, like, what can I find out about? Michael Madsen was like a very popular guest. So like, you basically would find out the information, you'd give it to the producers. They would draw up questions based on like, all right, Aaron, I heard you were in Aruba last week. Tell me about, did you really buy a house? But it was a great experience. In fact, I interned at the same time as John Krasinski did. He's the guy from The Office. So, he obviously took a very different successful path, but that's kind of like my little, but yeah. So I did an internship at a PR agency where my sister worked. And I always loved writing. I always loved storytelling, and public relations was kind of like a natural fit for that. It was, telling the stories of customers or clients. And I worked in travel PR. That was my first job out of college. So I got to go to Bermuda.
Oh, really?
That's awesome. Take a trip with some travel writers, escort them. I was 21-year-old me who had no clue what she was doing. Like, all right, I'm going to take these.
The one guy I used to work with, I used to teach resilience with, he always says traveling's great, but traveling when you're getting paid for it is the best thing in the world. And like, honestly, that's one of my goals is to like get paid to like public speak and like travel and stuff. But I don't know how to do. Listen, people think I have it all figured out. I have no idea what I'm doing, and genuinely no idea. I'm plugging away, trying to do like cool stuff and whatever. And I always get this all the time, like, I would have, people always think that I'm way busier or way more successful, like whatever, than I am. And like, I just want to let everybody know, like, I am, I'm a dad, I'm a cop. Thank God I have a full-time job because this business is not paying the bills. Okay, for me. So I'm still trying, but it's been a journey, and like that's why I always like to have people on here who are interesting, who have like a different story to tell, especially as far as like entrepreneurs and who are. Yes, I'm always like the fitness guy, but like I like stories. I like to hear people's like life stories, and people who are successful in their career. I always admire that, and like people who have a passion behind you. Like you love baking. Like I could sit here and listen to somebody talk about something that they love, forever. That's why next week, with the next time I do this, I'm having, I don't know if you know who AJ Angoli is, but he's a wedding videographer. Like he's like a very well known, and like people are like, why are you having a wedding videographer on? What, like, it's just like your guests are so random. It's like, yeah, because that's who I want to talk to. You know what I mean? I want to talk to very, very interesting people.
Well, I appreciate that
you grew up in Queens? You grew up in Long Island?
No, I grew up in Belmore, Long Island.
And then your parents moved to Queens?
No, my grandparents were from Queens.
Grandparents
yeah, my parents are still there, still in the house that I grew up in.
Okay.
And then when my husband and I got married, I've known my husband, we started dating at 17, but I've known him since like third grade. Our brothers played ice hockey together. And so like we just would see each other at the ice rink, and it's just, and as we grew up, went to the same middle school, high school, he was just like, I know him. And anyway, so I grew up in Belmore, and then after we got married, it was like, all right, start looking for a house at some point and start all right, like let's start moving a little this way because things when we were buying a house, I mean, it was like, all right, what can we afford? And we ended up in Farmingdale, and so that's where we've been for the last 12 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. How'd you guys start dating?
So I had a friend ask him to the prom because I was too embarrassed. He finished out high school. We went to junior high and high school, part of high school together, and then he finished out high school up in Manhasset, where his dad lives. And so he would often come out back down to Belmore, hang out. I went to Mepham High School growing up. Right. So he would come for like parties and stuff. And I'm like, he'd be a great person to bring to the prom because he knows everybody. He's always hanging out, So I just asked him, like, can you go ask him if he would maybe go to the prom? And he's like, really, Leanna? Like, you just can't ask me yourself. So we went to the prom and like we started dating that summer before college. He's going to Ohio State and I'm going to the University of Delaware, and like, okay, now we're dating and like we're falling in love, and now we're gonna go our separate ways, and that was definitely hard. That was definitely a challenge for two people that are falling in love, and we literally our biggest thing was like, oh my gosh, like opening up a credit card at 18 when they're like literally throwing them at you on campus, and like we'd be like, all right, like, book a plane ticket, come to see me, and I'm like, we're still paying that off.
I can only imagine what the interest rate was. I made the same mistake. I got an American Express card and it was like a $200 limit, and then like for some reason I didn't realize that I had to pay the whole thing off at one time. It was so nuts.
You don't realize you have to pay for this.
So
like
crazy.
It's like free money.
It was crazy. So University of Delaware, huh? Where is that?
University of Delaware is in Newark, Delaware. Blue Hens.
That sounds like a lot of fun. No, it wasn't?
It was great.
Okay.
It was a great school.
No, I like Delaware, actually. It's funny. My yoga instructor at work, and like we go to Delaware all the time. The beaches there are actually very nice.
Yeah, Bethany Beach was a big hangout.
Yeah. So you studied PR and marketing.
Yeah.
And what is the main takeaway that you learned in college from PR and marketing that you consistently use like now to promote yourself and promote your business? Well, like it doesn't even have to be something you learned then. Like, what do you think is your most successful marketing strategy now for anybody out there who's like trying to start a small business and trying to like put themselves out there?
I think just being authentically you is so important, because I think as much as you're selling a product, people want to know the story behind the product. And I think, like we've talked about already, sometimes it's uncomfortable, like getting in front of the camera, but building your brand identity, and that's going to be very specific to who you are and what your product is. I mean, I can think back to college, and like one of the things that I probably enjoyed the most while I was studying communications was actually the filming part and the editing. So, and I still to this day, I mean, the importance of that content that's engaging. So many times with these reels, and like I recently just started using CapCut. My 12-year-old daughter's telling me to use Mom, you got to get on CapCut, and it's like just the synchronized music with the cuts of the fast, and get people get them in from the beginning. It's so important, because if you're
it's hard, especially ADD and like all this other stuff. There's just so much content out there. It's so difficult. Listen, I even have a hard time sometimes, like when I want to say something important, I know that it's going to be like a longer video, but if I don't hook them in at the beginning, nobody's ever going to see it, to begin with. But like CapCut's good sometimes, right? But I find sometimes that like with those fast edits, I can't get across the point that I want to get across. So it's
too quick.
It's too quick. It's like, oh, here's make an 8-second video. What the hell am I going to do in 8 seconds? It's like, oh yeah, it's cool for like maybe like a workout montage, or like even for you, like a baking thing. But if you really want to say something, like even, what's making a comeback, which is crazy to me, is like long form YouTube. I see more people having success on YouTube because they want to know more about. Same thing with podcasting. Like podcasting is so popular because social media is just so one-dimensional. What are you going to learn about somebody's story in like 5 seconds unless you really follow them? And even they say now, like even if you follow somebody, like that's not as important as like the individual piece of content that they put out or what gets served to people. And like if people want to know about somebody, like long-form content or like telling stories or storytelling is better. And I don't know. I love hearing people's stories. So
Yeah, and like you said, you don't really. I feel like I'm so active in Instagram stories because I feel like I'm constantly. You see how many people are watching them, right? Versus how many people are clicking on your posts or liking them at least. And so I get, there's a lot of eyes on the story.
Yes.
So I use that as an opportunity to tell my story to let people know. I mean, they're the. I mean, my gratitude to people for enabling me to do this. I mean, it's because of my customers that I can do this, you know, and
agreed. Same
it's
thing.
the word of mouth. It's the people, like just dropping little things here and there. Like, this isn't, people don't realize like, this isn't what I've always been doing. Or, this is, some people don't realize like, this is my job, this is what I do. Like you don't have to wait to Christmas to order a crumb cake. You can get it anytime.
Whenever you want. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so.
I think people do forget about that for sure. What else? Let's see. So you went to University of Delaware, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. That didn't last very long, the Ohio State part.
Oh, really? What did he do?
Some people just go to college and they're not ready to go to college.
No, listen, I could go on forever about that. That's like my whole life story. I went to 6 different colleges before I finally graduated. It took me 22 years.
Yeah.
But like, I went to college. So I came from a very fucked up home, like a very abusive childhood. Yeah. So my goal when I went to college was get out. Like, get out of my house, go somewhere, and like I didn't care where I did. I wanted to be a film major, so I was like, "Oh, this school in Pittsburgh has a film program," and I went to escape. And I went and I realized that, listen, I love making film, but film in college is a lot like. I wish they had YouTube back then because I would have slayed YouTube so hard. And you know what? Like, I really, like, when YouTube started, I probably could have done something then, but in my mind, I had already, like, separated as, like, and this is the mistake that I make, which a lot of people make, is, like, if you have a passion for something and you love it, always keep it as a hobby and don't give up on it.
Yes.
Like, because, and I made that mistake because if I still had it as a hobby and I didn't give up on it completely.
Don't say it's a mistake, though.
Okay. I won't say it's a mistake.
Because that's, you know how long I felt so like stuck and trapped, and it's at the end of the day when you think about it, it's like that's you putting that on yourself. Like, get out of that mentality.
You're right.
You're younger than me. You still you still have time.
I'm trying. I'm just saying, I wish at the beginning I would have been as passionate because I always wanted to make movies. Like, I used to cut when I was in high school. I used to cut class and edit films and like make videos, and then I went to college. I went to film school, and like I realized I just had a bad experience where it was like that scene in Family Guy where there's this. They show up what a college film is like, and it's like Meg smoking a cigarette, like flipping over a flapjack in slow motion in black and white, and like that's what film school college professors wanted, and like. I didn't want to make that. I want to make like things that people would enjoy. Right. And this like, and listen, don't get me wrong. I love art. And you could do both. Like the films that do both things are always highly successful because they merge two worlds that like almost feel like they shouldn't be together. This art and also like something that's popular in pop culture. And I always wanted to do that, but it just wasn't. So it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I got kicked out of college. And then I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? So I started with science and did biochemistry, which I also hated. Yeah. And I was just very lost, and I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. And I think, especially having kids now, and this is why I'm so stressful, like, listen, do what you want, what you're passionate about. Absolutely. Because back when college is so much of a different world now. Back when we were applying for colleges, it was like, you're in 10th grade. You better decide what you want to do for the rest of your fucking life. Otherwise, you're not going to have a career, and you have all this pressure and all this stuff. So you apply to colleges, and there's just so much pressure on you that you wind up quitting. And everything is the same way. The more pressure you place on yourself, the more likely you are to quit that thing. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And like now, there's college everywhere. You can go to college online, which I highly recommend. I finally finished my bachelor's degree. Like, what I'm going to do with it, I have no idea. It was just, I did it because I didn't want it to be something that held me back when I retire from what I do now, which, I eventually want to not do that anymore, but,
But don't you feel like life experience kind of brings you to, how does a 17-year-old know what they want to do? Like, it's through those experiences, sometimes through failure that we learn, okay, Like, that's definitely not for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I often think about that with the business because I'm like, you know, sometimes I want to try things out of my comfort zone, do something different, do a pop-up, you know, and see how it goes.
You crushed it though.
but it's like I literally have told myself, Leanna, like there's no mistakes. Like, you do things, and if they don't work out or if they're terrible, then you just don't do them again. You learn from them, and then you do something different. So I thankfully have, you know, anything where I've kind of stepped out of my comfort zone, it has been successful, and it's helped build that confidence. But I think sometimes, especially for young adults, like, you know, it's through trying things, it's through sometimes failing that we come to the place of like finding what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And I think even with our kids, like we definitely don't want to put that pressure on.
No,
we're very,
definitely
you know, especially with our son, like, you know, he's a big kid. So you look at him and like, oh, he's got to play football. I mean, he's a teddy bear, and he doesn't like we put him in flag football and he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, should I, you know, he doesn't, he's not aggressive. And it's like, okay. Oh, and like, you know, my husband grew up, he was playing football and lacrosse from the time he was like in diapers, and just what he did. His father was a coach, and like he grew up in that and he loved it, but he's like, you know, Owen's not me. And so like, you have to let your children, you know, tell you what they're into and give them those experiences, but let them find their path too, and not force what you think or what society tells you they should be because of a look or a whatever. So I think it's, you know, failure is all part of the process. And it's never too late.
No, it's definitely never too late. That's for sure. So he played football and lacrosse, but he also became an executive chef in his part-time, or what's the deal with that?
Everyone thinks he's an actual chef.
Yeah, honestly, I did too. When I see you post what he cooks, I'm like, this guy really knows what he's doing.
He's passionate. Talk about being passionate about something. He loves to cook.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an amazing teacher. He's passionate about education. But if he wasn't a teacher, he would probably be a chef because he loves it that much.
It looks.
And our hope is one day, I joke, I'm like, I'm building the following now, hun. So when you're ready to retire, not that we would ever have like a store or a restaurant, but like to do something together where we blend his passion and mine and do, whether it's just like a little food trailer, like cart thing, whatever. Yeah. But, you know, being a teacher, he's like, that's his career, that's his career, you know. Yeah, of course. But like we need like, you know, he's on a very stable path. I'm like, entrepreneurship can kind of go a little, you know,
like
it's
sideways sometimes.
It can. I mean, even just in the 4 years, I mean, the price alone of ingredients and stuff. I mean, it's getting to a point. I'll be very. I can't sit here and not say this. Like, there are times where I'm like, what did I do? Yeah. Like, every other Friday, I could have had this like same paycheck. Could have probably had the kitchen of my dreams by now. Like I do, seeds of doubt creep in all the time. But it's like pushing past that and knowing like I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like this has its highs, it has its lows, but through and through, it's the most incredible thing to be doing something that you love, and to kind of push through those times where it gets, you know. But like I said, like 2020 case of butter, 36 pounds was $48. Today it's like $130. So It's like my prices, you know, have ultimately had to go up to reflect the ingredient. But I often think like, okay, if things keep creeping up, like at a certain point, you know, like is someone going to pay $50 for a car? Like I'm not going to.
Yours, yes. I'd pay $100.
But you know, as I've had to increase the prices, that I understand, just as someone who's also watching for my family, there's just going to be certain things that like you're not going to indulge in because maybe, you know, food is one of those expenses that you.
So funny is like I'm not going to say like I'm very comfortable right now, right? But there are certain things that I love that I've had to like literally like be like, no, you know what?
Right.
I'll give you a perfect example. Coffee, right? I love coffee. I'm a big coffee snob. Like eventually one day I want to like roast coffee. Like I fucking love coffee. Okay. But I will buy a cup of coffee at, I don't care where it is, Starbucks or anywhere. And I see that price And I'm like, and now I'm going to tell you, my order is very simple. I don't order anything crazy. I might order a regular, like, large coffee, maybe an extra shot of espresso in there. That's it. We're talking like $6. And I'm like, absolutely not, no more. Like, finally, and for the first time in my life, I actually went out. Well, I didn't even go out. Like, my wife ordered them for me, like, giant boxes of, like, K-cups for Keurig. Like, I would rather not drink that. I would rather go to the coffee shop and get a fresh coffee, right? But to me, like, the price is just astronomical. Like, I think, like, that was like what a pack of cigarettes cost.
Sure.
Like, not that long ago. And it's like, could I afford it? Probably. But do I want to spend that? Absolutely not.
Well, and that's the thing. I've seen a shift because in 2020, people were home. They wanted to support small businesses. My cakes at that point, I think, were like $12 or $15, whatever they were. And it was a price point that most people could afford. And now it's, I've definitely having to increase my prices. It has impacted my clientele, but I do think once people have had it's kind of like, well, like, it is worth it.
I agree. I feel the same way, right? Like, that coffee is just something very simple, but there are certain things that when it comes to like, I'm never gonna buy, like, if I have to buy a product, like, let's say it's a baked good in general, I would never buy something from a grocery store. It's just not something I can, because the difference is just so vast and so huge that it's worth paying that extra money for, that thing, that high quality product, when you know that you're definitely getting something that's much better. So I think people definitely know that. I think that they're willing to pay a little bit more to a small business, especially when it comes to baked goods. I'm not going to mention them by name, but do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
Oh, that there's a Crumb Picker imposter out there. How do you feel about that?
I think there's always room.
Oh, look at you! You're so nice. Good for you.
Yeah, there's plenty of room in the sandbox for everybody to play nicely. I honestly, what good would that do me to I think there's a lot of people on Long Island and a lot of people that love good food, good sweet treats. And there's a lot of great choices for people. And I think my path is unique. I have watched businesses start at the same time as me. They went a different route. They went the store route. They're not in existence anymore. Yeah. Like, and not to say like they made a bad choice, but like my path is not someone else's path. And I think I'm very, very supportive of a lot of other small businesses. And I think I'm very conscientious when I'm putting something out there, like, go support, like, I truly believe it's a great product. Yes. I think there's great people behind it. And I think there's probably a lot of stuff I haven't tried that,
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. When people ask me all the time, like, if I'm in competition with anybody, I'm like, no, like, why would I be? There's so much space out there for people to get along and, like,
Sure.
And like, listen, there are people out there when they come to me, they're like, oh,
and
even like coaching, like, I'm like, dude, like, I can't handle what you need. Like, go see this person, and I will recommend them for all the time. I'm not in competition with anybody, and I don't think. I think as soon as you start really, like, that's when almost like jealousy and like these emotions that you don't want to have creep in, and then that will severely affect how you do business and
absolutely
like all this other shit like that you. Dude, don't like just be your own individual self. And for those people out there who want to go on start a business or start even like just a social media page, just be yourself. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Like, not everybody's in your competition. Is your competition. Like, you are really your biggest competition.
I agree 100%. And even when I see businesses, not like, I don't want to say copying, because the content is, it's like, you know what? I should be flattered that someone thinks what I'm posting or whatever I'm saying in a story that they think that their customers need to hear the same thing about that. Like, whatever. It is what it, it's, I am not cocky. I am not arrogant, but I am so confident in the product that I put out that I feel like there's just like my product speaks for itself, and I'm not even gonna, compare myself, because we're just not the same people. We're not the same product. And, I think that's kind of sets me apart. And
I agree. For those people out there who are trying to start a business, like let's say they have something that they're like, man, I'm really passionate about this and I want to turn it into a business. Like, what do you recommend that they do first?
I think you have a captive audience with your friends and your family, and those are the people you got to start with. And whatever it is, if it's a product, a service, whatever, like having them try it, having them be your guinea pig. Here it was, I was doing that and didn't even realize I was doing that. And it helped me build the confidence that I did have a great product that people wanted, and they wanted to pay me money for it. Even my own family, that I felt like, I don't want to take you. We're related. I don't want to take your money.
Do you charge them now?
I mean, listen,
you should. No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah.
My husband's cousin was just by yesterday. His son's having a communion today. And I said to him, like, I would have been coming to the communion and giving you a gift. Like, this is a gift. It's just in a different way. But I think getting feedback from people that you trust is very important. And I think you got to be open to the fact that some people are not going to think you have a great idea. And how can you tweak that? And how can you, figure out what's happening in the market, look at what other people are doing similar to your product. How can yours be better? How can yours be different? What can, make it stand out?
Be realistic about it. And have that ego gets in the way a lot of times, where we think we're doing things the right way all the time because this is the way we're doing it. But I think, so you said, see what other people are doing. Obviously, like, it's crazy. It's like you can look at things in two ways. And I always think the same way. Like, I'm not in competition with anybody, right? But I will look to see what other people are doing, to see if they're successful. And I will be like, oh, wow, that's really working. I like what I see. I'm going to try and do something similar because what that person's doing is working. Not to compete with them. Sure. But just because what they're doing is great and it's working. Not, you know what I mean? And like that also is definitely very helpful when it comes to like starting, trying to like, because everything's always changing. You know what I mean? And especially when it comes to advertising and putting yourself out there and what people like and what people want to see. So seeing what other people are doing and what's successful and being honest with yourself about what works and what doesn't, and really, but you touched on something before that I just thought of again, is like, you said that self-doubt almost like creeps into your brain. And I think a lot of us have this, and I don't know, but I can't speak for you, but for me, I have what is been termed as severe imposter syndrome, where I have this self-doubt a lot, right? So what advice, you said you push through.
I do.
Me too, but what?
I literally am like my own cheerleader. I literally just I literally say sentences that are truths about me. Like, you were courageous to leave, to do what you did. And like, I tell myself like truth sentences to literally take those seeds of doubt and turn them and speak truth. And that really helps me, overcome in that moment. And it's often when I'm baking, or it's often like if there's a lull, of business, where I'm like, what did you do, Leanna? Like, you could have, it's Friday and you're not getting paid, because that's the reality of owning a business is like, 1 week you can make, you can do a pop-up and make a good amount of money in one shot. And guess what? Next week you could have 3 customers. So how do you find that balance of like, okay, I need to have a consistent income, but but really overcoming those seeds of doubt is, and I you had mentioned it in one of your podcast interviews about just sometimes like not seeing yourself as you are right now, like thinking when you look in the mirror you see like kind of the old you, and it's like those progress pictures, or just reminding yourself. This morning before this interview, I was scrolling back to February in 2020 and March 2020, and it's like I literally look like a different person. Like my countenance like was heavy. Like you could see the stress on my face. And it was like the moment that I was free of that, like it was like, and just to remember that sometimes, you want to look back sometimes and remember and take a lesson from that and be like, I grew from that situation or that struggle. But we don't want to always be looking backwards, because I feel like we're not going that way. We're going this way, you know? So look back to an extent of where you've come from and how hard, how far you've come, but also look ahead, because it's what you're experiencing today is not what you're going to be experiencing a year from now too. Like how I am, like how my business is being run right now, a year from now can be, who knows? It's...
Well, what do you want it to be a year from now?
I often say, it's like I literally am right now living the best of everything. I have the balance of being around for my kids. I have, steady business. I love my family. I want to be around them. Yes. I know some people, like, they want to work and, like, not, I know people that are like, I'd rather be at the office than home with the kids, and I'm not saying I have it right and it's got to be my way, but for me, like, that balance of career and home is very important to me. So, I think ultimately down the road, if I can somehow bring my kids into the fold and have them, I'm not assuming that the business is what they're going to want to do, but I have started to kind of, even my daughter, I taught her how to do the cookies. I was like, do not tell anyone this recipe.
She already told all her friends. It's it. It's over.
No, but like teaching them. And you know what the beautiful thing of this is? When I worked in the office and was working long hours, and like the kids, they were younger, they knew I was working hard. Like mommy's at work, or mommy's got an event, mommy will be home late. Now it's like I'm working hard in front of their face, and the impact of that. I mean, my son all the time, Mommy, you work so hard. You deserve a break. It's like he's seeing it, and it's just a different effect on them. But I would love to bring them into it in some level, to be able to do more. Ultimately what I would love to do is redo my kitchen, equip my kitchen with more ovens so that I can still be at home doing what I love, but do more at one time, become more efficient.
Wait, you still only have one oven?
Oh my God, yeah.
You do all this from one oven?
One oven. In a kitchen that was built in 1952 with a counter space that's probably this big.
How long does it take you? Okay, like let's say, how many cakes did you bake for the pop-up?
So for the pop-up, full-size cakes, I came with 80. And then I did I did 30 minis. I came with over 100. I was like 115 items. So
how long did it take you to make that?
Two 14-hour days baking, no rest. Like, that's the thing. It becomes... the holidays become a lot, because I'm limited with, obviously I'm one person, but I have one oven, and it literally becomes, I think the most I've ever been able to do is like 2 16-hour days back to back. And I was able to do like maybe 130 in terms of big cakes with that. Like, I'm limited.
That's crazy. And so when you bake, okay, how many cakes can you put in the oven at one time?
6 cakes, 6 full-size cakes.
And then what do you do with them when you're cooling them? Where do they go? I'm just trying to visualize this in my head. I can't.
You haven't seen the pictures?
I have, but
so I have tables like this all around my. So I have a cape. So my kitchen and my dining room are kind of just like one open area. So I basically work at my dining room table. I do everything at the dining room table. The mixer's up there, and then I set up like tables around the living room, and so as stuff comes out of the oven, I'm putting it onto the tables to cool. I become a maniac. I'm like, I apologize. Like, after the pop-up, I literally, the first thing, like, I on the couch with my husband and my son, my daughter, like, I'm really sorry, Mommy was like kind of crazy, because I don't want them in, not like they can't go in the room, but my son especially, like, he's like jumping on. I'm like, oh, and not near the cakes, like I gotta basically take over my living room. At one point my husband's like, let's just get rid of the couches, Lee. You could just put like cookie rack. I'm like, I still want to have a home. I still want to be able to so you want to come over for dinner, like have people over. What I mean, it doesn't happen that often anymore, but like, just like my parents stop by, you want to sit and have a cup of coffee. Like, I don't want to convert my entire first floor to a baking space, but I theoretically probably could. So
have you thought about like going to a commercial place or no?
I have. I looked into it. I looked into it when I first started the business. Truth be told, I haven't looked into it recently, but I think at the end of the day, the cost of it and not schlepping stuff. I mean, one of the places I looked at, you could leave your ingredients there. It's not locked up or whatever.
We definitely looked at the same place, and it was expensive though.
It's expensive, and honestly, like that's money in my pocket.
Right, and like for you, you're doing way more than me. For me, like literally, like I need.
It's like you'll be negative profit.
Yeah, no, I need like for what I'm doing. Like I literally need like 4 hours in a kitchen, like maybe a month. Like that's it. It's like the smallest amount of time, and like that place was like, nope, this is what it costs a month. This is how many hours you get a month. You might keep my ingredients, great, but I don't need you to keep my ingredients because I'm not gonna fucking be there. Right. So. Yeah, no, it's so expensive.
It brings me out of the home, and again back to that balance. Like I constantly listen. My kids are not. They were 7 and 9 when I started the business. They're 11 and soon to be 13. And if I've learned anything, I thought they were old when I left and started the business. They weren't old, and they're still not old. They need, like I mentioned, like this world is crazy, and they need their mom. And not that, but like my kids are pretty well rounded, and I think that's awesome, I think it's important. So I to give that up and start going to a space and then be not if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. So.
No, I was just curious if it's just
eventually we'll see.
Eventually we'll see. Yeah, when the kids maybe get older or whatever. But we'll if it's not necessary, definitely there's no reason to. But I mean, you should you should just build a gigantic kitchen in your own house.
That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, so there you go.
You got the chef; he would use it.
Yeah.
I looked into converting the garage. That definitely is a more financially, viable option for the short term. Like, making a whole prep space. But as far as I'm concerned, if it doesn't have a second oven, it's really, as much as it would be great to have a dedicated space where I could work and crumbs could go flying all around, and I don't have to worry about them like going on my living room carpet. I'm a maniac. I have a problem.
I have
cleaning.
a visual. Wait, you.
I'm like OCD cleaner.
Cleaner too? On top of it?
Oh my God.
Those two things don't mix up though. How does that even mesh?
It's crazy.
Do you clean like immediately after?
Yes.
Get the hell out of here. No way. Like, so, okay. So you said you put back to back 14-hour days. So after the first 14-hour day, you clean and then start again?
Yeah.
No way.
I clean
That's
as
impossible.
I go.
Come on.
And then I can't wait till those tables are out. And the second, after all my pickups are done and I'm ready to literally collapse, I am vacuuming, mopping the floors. I'm like, I'm crazy. My friend's like, you're like the guy from, did you ever see the movie Sleeping with the Enemy? And the towels are like, perfectly straight in the bath. Like, listen, I could go about my life. It's not that bad. I love a clean house. And then now add the fact that I'm running a business out of a house. I'm like, now my level of like, it's higher.
Oh, no. Obviously it should be clean. But like, I was just thinking like, that's crazy. Especially crumb cake. That's just got to get everywhere. And then you're cleaning it. Oh my God.
Nuts.
My Lord.
Ask my husband. You'll have to do your next interview with my husband.
Oh my God. That would be so funny to have a different perspective on like, what's it like to live with Leanna? Please tell us. He'd be like, I would tell you, but I don't want to wind up divorced. No, but he seems like an awesome guy who's like super supportive. That's what I said. I always stress the importance of relationships. And like, especially, I can only imagine running a business, what sometimes that relationship could be, that give and take.
Sure.
Or like, sometimes, because businesses cost money to run, and that the financials are like one of the main reasons that relationships don't struggle, and like that do struggle. And to talk to them, and I was just thinking like having that conversation sometimes with like, okay, this is going to cost this much money.
Sure.
Are we doing this or not? Like, what are we doing with it? It's such a difficult conversation. Like, have you guys ever had that experience where you're like, oh no, we're not doing this? Or
I think Kevin has always been the voice of reason when it comes to like investing in products for efficiency. I mean, one thing I am super, super proud of is I have zero business debt. Like everything that I make, goes right, like pretty much right back into the business. I mean, I pay myself very little, and then it's all, have a big event, and then okay, now I need more ingredients, and it's back into, or invest in a huge mixer because that'll make it more efficient. But no, we've never really disagreed. In fact, I feel like his undergrad was in business. He did ultimately graduate from CW Post, but he also went on a path of changing careers. But, I think he does have that business sense. He really helped me in the beginning. One of the first things we did was outline the costs of what does it cost to make a cake from literally the teaspoon of salt, the cost, every single thing that goes into making that cake, break it down, know your cost. He really brought in this side that probably I would have not, invested so much time to do in the beginning. That has helped me tremendously along the way. He built out a whole like Excel document. So now when I do my taxes, it's very easy, like to input everything, profit and loss. He's incredible. And so no, we've never really,
That's great. That's awesome. And
he's honestly, I credit him to the fact that like I'm just able to do this because I keep thinking like there's so many opportunities that he could have said no, sorry.
My problem is always like I feel guilty even to like ask, but then like she never has a problem with anything. Like even when they came to the podcast, it was like, yeah, listen, this is what's gonna cost, and she's just like, all right, whatever, let's do it. Let's go for it. Especially since it helps, everything else. Let's see what else. I don't
know.
Pizza. Yo, best pizza on Long Island. Oof. I know we're gonna alienate some people. All right,
so in terms of like Neapolitan style, that's got to be Saverio's for sure on Broadway. Yeah, but then like football pizza, I'm gonna go with my latest obsession is Pizza Unducci in Massapequa.
Pizza, is that how you say that word?
I don't know.
Undici. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not Italian.
New Park for Queens.
New Park is probably the best pizza in Queens for sure. But the problem with New Park is I could eat a whole pie by myself. Very, very thin slices.
Yeah, Mike's Underground. Sorry,
Mike's Underground.
I'm thinking of that too.
Yeah, Mike's Underground is my favorite.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially specialty pizzas like anything like Sicilian.
Yep.
Sicilian pizza to me, I'm very snobby about. It has to be like a crunchy Sicilian. Like it cannot be like doughy. Like Spumoni Gardens. Sorry if you love it. I don't. It's like it's too soft for me. I gotta have like a crunchy.
And I know you don't like New Haven, and that was like a big.
Listen, I've had it multiple times, and I can tell you this straight out. Like I don't understand, especially like Dave Portnoy, right? He's from there, so he loves New Haven pizza. But when he rates other pizza places, the ones that he rates high are nothing like that. Yeah. So I don't know. So I expected it to be like a very thin crust style pizza, and it wasn't. You know what pizza was very interesting? Chicago actually has two styles of pizza. They have tavern style and they have deep dish, right? Deep dish sucks. I hate it. Sorry if you're listening out there from, I don't know, Central America, the middle of, the United States. Deep dish pizza is terrible. It's disgusting. But their tavern style, very thin crust, like it's almost like crackerish. Is very good. The closest experience here that you could have is Rico's.
I was just gonna say Rico. That sounds like Rico's.
Very good. I enjoy
Rico's. Looks like roller skating rink pizza. It does not taste like
no.
It's good.
It's very good. It's good. It tastes different than traditional pizza.
Yeah.
And this is what I always say. There's levels to pizza, right? And
correct.
My wife, who loves Papa John's,
boy,
and will order it when I'm not around. She says it's different. It's not like regular pizza. It's just like junk food, whatever, right? But there's plenty of pizza places here that I haven't tried that I always say that I'm going to, but I just always go back to the old traditional spots because, when I'm eating, this is the thing is like, I'm always like trying to eat good. Right. And I have so many friends that own small businesses and I always want to support them. And I feel bad. It's so crazy. Like, but I always wind up going to the same spots because I always want to support the same people with the limited times that I do like indulge and
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like people are like, how do you not eat it all the time? It's like when you're around something all the time, you don't want it. Like,
I don't know.
Like
if I was around your cookies all the time, I would eat them all the time. They literally go in like 45 seconds. When I bring the cookies home when you did the pop-up and we got them in the car, they were gone, I think, in like I'm not even saying 20 minutes. Between my kids and me and my wife, they're gone. They're done.
They're like a potato chip. They're like
yeah.
Not like a regular,
calories in these cookies don't count. At least I don't count them.
Yeah.
No, but they're amazing. Anything on that you don't have on the menu yet that you will put on the menu in the future?
I do have something up my sleeve. I can't really talk about it, but I do. I have a collaboration up my sleeve that I think people are going to go nuts for.
I'm already going nuts mentally in my mind. Like the suspense is like killing me.
Yeah, we're just perfecting. So it's a collaboration where I have my product and I'm incorporating this person's product in mine, but then this person is incorporating some of my product in theirs, and I think the potential is it's just gonna be fun. It's fun, and I think I have my own like desserts that are kind of like my favorites, so it kind of brings something of mine that I love that like is my indulgence when I want to like have a cheat.
I'm gonna figure it out.
I know you will.
No.
But yeah.
Any other local businesses that you looked forward like are gonna collaborate with in the future?
Well, I really loved the opportunity. Wicked Waffles had reached out probably a couple weeks ago to do something where he put my crumbs on his waffle for like Food Truck Fridays, and it was a home run. People loved it, and I mean, that's a great company. They're great people.
Oh, they agreed.
Amazing,
I had
amazing products.
Yeah, we did like party favors, like the little boxes of waffles. There's another business I fucking love that. I love them, right? But I cannot have that in my house all the time. I know. So good. Yeah, Wicked Waffles is great. Same thing. What else? What other some other ones that you really want to show love for and support for?
Oh gosh. I mean, like even beyond the actual products, the people who are running these pages to promote these products. I mean, I wouldn't be on the map without Ella Eats is like a great page. She's somebody who runs.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. Look her up. Ella Eats on Instagram.
I'm going to have to do that.
And so when I left my corporate job, and one of the first things I did, she actually works, at the same organization that I worked at.
Oh, really?
And, I said, can I get you a crumb cake just to try? And she did a post and stories. And I mean, that alone, that summer, it was like early June 2020. Like by her doing that, she set off a whole chain reaction of all these other people who had food pages that were like, hey, can I try your stuff? And back then, like people were just looking to try it and they would promote it.
Yeah.
I mean, now, it's a business. People,
I know, it's crazy. And I would never do that. I had somebody, and this is nuts. I had somebody who works out at my gym. She works out at my gym. She owns Beth Page Kickboxing Academy.
Okay.
And she was like, what do you charge for when you collaborate with businesses? And I looked at her like, what? And she's like, what do you charge people? And I'm like, nothing. Why? She's like, oh, because I want you to stop by and like check it out. I'm like, if you send me something, I will promote whatever the hell it is. Like we know each other. You're not some stranger. First of all, and even some stranger, I don't know you. Like I'm not really. I have people do that to me all the time because I have a following, and I'm like, I don't even know you. Who are you sending me this shit?
Right.
Those are the only people that I don't like repost their stuff. But if we know each other, like,
right.
This is why I created social media, like to help other people out. Like, so,
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird to me. So like, when she asked me that, I was like blown away. And there's another person too who asked me a very similar question, and I was just like, I don't know. And unfortunately, there are people doing that, and even podcasts is like another thing. I told this story on a podcast that I did once before, but like, I had somebody hit me up. They have a very large following, and they were like, hey, listen, do you want to be on my podcast? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. Like, okay, we only do it in Vegas. So you're going to have to fly out to Vegas to be on the podcast. I'm like, okay, no problem. And like, we were actually in a hotel. It was me and my wife and my kids. And I'm like, hey, listen, this person hits me up. We discussed it. We're like, these messages are every business decision, every decision I ever make, it's a collab, team effort. And you cannot, I need that. So as these messages are coming in, I'm having this conversation, and I'm like, okay. She's like, okay, we'll make a couples trip out of it or whatever. Like, we're discussing. I'm like, okay, cool. Then, okay, here's an application. Fill it out. I get to the application. I start filling it out. 10th question down. It's like, I agree to pay $10,000, and this person has like actually upgraded what they charge now. It's $15,000, and I'm like, this person's charging $10,000. I immediately was like, I just felt like such a fucking idiot for like
thinking this was like a.
But like now I get into this whole thing where like I go through something like that personally, where I see that this person's charging this, and now I'm like, is the whole business world out there like this? And like, am I like fucked up? I'm not saying that I'm ever going to do that. I'm never going to do that. But what I'm saying though is like, how am I supposed to like break into business and do more business and like try to expand my shit if this is how it is. Like I cannot afford to pay people money. I cannot afford, like I can't do that. So this is the difficulty that I'm having, is like I don't know where to go from here. Like I'm struggling myself to like promote my own stuff. It's just,
right. It is very common.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've not once paid for anyone to post
me neither.
anything.
Nope.
It's all authentic. Same for me. Like anything you see me promote about another business is because I'm trying it and I believe in it and I want to help them.
100%.
But it is very common. And, someone had reached out to me and they said, oh, I'm nominating you for top businesswoman of Long Island. You're going to get all this information. And I'm like, same kind of thing. I'm like, wow. And then I get the thing and I'm reading it. And I should have known better, because coming from PR, we would get these things all the time with the hospital. Like, you're best hospital on Long Island. You can earn that. Just sign here and pay. So again, not all is as it might appear. And I think the best thing is just keep, I know you might feel like you're not making traction, but you are by being authentic and really,
Well, I would rather have no traction and like be myself than like gain traction and like be completely not a real person. And 100%. I think that's what people lose it. Is like, I know 100% in my field, especially like law enforcement, I could go total like hardcore, like political and like bring tons of people in, or go hardcore, give in to like police being my entire identity and draw people in. I will not do it, because I think both of those things fuck a lot of people up mentally, and contribute a lot of toxic things to the world as it is, and I don't want to be a part of that.
Well, I'll tell you what I think got me following you is someone, a colleague of yours, the wife shared something motivational that you put out in COVID. It was weight loss related, and that's how I started following you. It was like this man who's done it. He's not only talked the talk, but he's done it. And like that's
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a lot harder now that I have a friend who makes cakes and cookies.
I'm sorry. I'm like,
no. Listen, life's about balance.
Yes,
for real.
For sure.
And
too much of anything is not a good thing.
And people probably like, this guy was always posting all this cool food and all this other stuff. It's like yesterday I posted outside my office every Friday they have like smorgasbord. It's like all like food carts. And listen, they have some great food out there. I had some tacos. I had some tacos. I ate these like Brazilian. I don't know what the hell they were called, but life to me is about balance and enjoying myself. My intention is to never be a bodybuilder who steps on stage, and I don't want to. And too many people give that impression that you have to, in order to lose weight, in order to be healthy, you have to like eat like nothing and starve yourself. And I had Sarah on last week. She eats like 3,500 calories a day. Like you don't have to starve yourself. Life's about enjoying it. Imagine, and you talked about this with your career, is like, okay, you're doing this thing in your career, like, oh, I'm never seeing my kids. And it's the same way when it comes to fitness. It's like, okay, I'm never enjoying food. I'm going to enjoy food at this time. I'm going to enjoy my life after my career at this time. What the fuck happens when you never get there? What happens? So many people think that time's going to last forever. It's not. It's not going to last forever. And it's like, you have to enjoy it now. Eat the cake sometimes.
Eat the cake. For sure.
Yeah. Not all the time, but enjoy it. And it makes it so much more special too when you're when you're having those awesome moments. Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram, Facebook at @the_crumb_picker, and then I have a website, www.thecrumbpicker.com.
If you were to recommend one product that people try first, what would it be? I say the cookies, but
That's what my husband says.
Yeah.
He feels like they're the underdog, like that.
How are they the underdog? They're number one.
No, here's the thing. So most people order the traditional. If and when sometimes I have a little extra cookie, say you're picking up and I'm making a big order of cookie favors and I have like cookies cooling. I've been known to do this. Like, oh, next time I'll say to the customer, like, next time you should really try the cookies. And you know what? Hang on. And I'll give them like 2. And from that point forward, it's like the order always has the cookies.
I think that's what you did to me.
Did I?
Yeah, you psychologically tricked me into making them my favorite
what
cookies of all
happened
time.
was not rushed. I made you the pumpkin crumb cake because I knew you liked pumpkin. And the person who was going to drop it off for me told me she was like however many minutes away. And I, at the very last minute, was like, I have time to make him cookies. I knew you loved pumpkin, but I was like, I'm going to give him cookies too.
Yeah. And I'm not even like that crazy. Listen, I'm telling you, I'm not even that crazy of a cookie guy either. But it's just I have to have them now. Like
They're addicting.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely drugs in them.
Yeah, it's a toss up, either traditional crumb cake or chocolate chip cookies or both. Those are literally neck and neck.
And any last words that you want to tell people out there? I don't know, about life or about anything. Now's your chance.
Stop thinking that you're stuck. Make a change. If you feel like you need a change, whether it's job, health, finances, whatever it is, if you feel stuck, don't believe the lie that you're stuck. Make that change. And for me, again, the element of have faith that if something is not what God intended for your life, if you feel like he's got better for you, follow that in your heart and go after it.
Awesome. That's good. I'll try to think about that myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks
please
for having me.
Go support her. Go support all small businesses, especially local ones. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.